Cool. Awesome. Sam, welcome to the Gray Zone. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome, mate. Nice to see you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Sam, well,
I
I just
like
want
that
to,
name, bro.
what's
I
that?
like Gray Zone. I like that name, the
Oh,
Gray Zone. It's like,
yeah,
welcome
thank
to the
you.
Gray Zone.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
thank
very
you. Thank
cool.
you. It's not play on my name, obviously, and then also
Yeah.
just playing in ambiguity. There's no right answer.
Mm, love that. Love
Yeah,
that. Cool.
yeah. I wanted to just start off with what inspired the name for your company, Braver Leaders.
Cool. Nice. Um, so about 7 years ago now, I got clean and sober. And when I did that, one of the things I discovered through that process, not like prior to getting clean and sober, and then after, I discovered that talking about it was actually a strength and not a weakness.
Mhm.
And it really helped quite a lot of people, or quite a few people who I shared it with, help them feel safe around me and to be able to share their own struggles. I quite often got people kind of saying to me, "Oh, can I chat to you, or can I send you a friend's number, or whatever, and to talk to them about their own struggles with booze or whatever." Um, and so, yeah, and I wanted to. I lost a job about 7 years ago. That was the catalyst for me getting
Yeah.
clean and sober. Um, and when I came back to New Zealand, where I am now, I was reflecting, going, "Oh man, like what do I want to do?" I knew I wanted to work with teams and looking at behavior change.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't have said it like that at that time for sure. But
How would you have said it? How
I
would you have said it at that time?
I don't know. Like I think probably I would have just said I want to work with teams, or I want to help teams with their performance or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but so I came back here and I started authoring my first course after I'd done some master's study in New Zealand, and I was writing it all down. I was like, okay, what am I going to call this? I'm going to go and start giving it to people in the world of work. And yeah, braver leaders came to me because it was like um, I want people to understand that being vulnerable and sharing the story isn't weak.
Hmm.
It's a sign of strength. And I was going to be called Brave Leaders, but I want it to be a continuous thing. So
Yeah.
it's like this: we're continually learning and growing and figuring stuff out along the way. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's where it came from.
That's sick.
It's a pretty long-winded answer.
No, not at all. I mean, if you can't be long-winded now, I don't know when you can be. So, no, it's great.
Sweet, sounds good.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love the idea of the continuous, like the ER after the brave, you know what I mean? Braver. Because
Yeah.
like what you were saying around like continuous growth means continuously being uncomfortable and needing to kind of be brave again. I found it's interesting. Like it never gets easier, whether it's like being brave or trying harder in something. If
Yeah.
that, I don't know if that's something you can relate to, but
Definitely, right? Like you grow through adversity, don't you? Like it's kind of yeah. I mean, it's adversity in some way, shape, or form every time you grow,
mm,
isn't it? It might not be super tough adversity, or it might not be unpleasant adversity, but like going to the gym, for
yeah,
example, is a form of growth, right?
yeah, literally, right?
Going, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
If that's your goal, like,
for
or it
sure.
might be
That's a great
a
point.
growth
That's a
of
great point.
yeah, a growth of like I know I want to lose a few pounds.
Yeah,
Like I'm growing because I want to feel better,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But yeah, like or going back and studying something, it's gonna be a bit of suffering, and you're gonna learn as a result, right?
yeah. And you've worked with quite a few leaders and leadership teams, people who've reached some degree of like I don't want to say maybe this is the wrong word, but like people who have some degree of competency or like mastery of business to an extent for them to be in these leadership positions. And
Mhm.
I'm curious for your thoughts on this, if this is something that you've seen there and kind of how it plays out. But I've noticed with myself, like I love rock climbing. I got really into rock climbing and accelerated quite quickly in terms of ability in the first few years. Um, and it's funny being one of the better climbers at the gym most of the time. I find it quite it's almost harder now to push myself and to see myself fail in front of other people than it was when I was new. And I find that an interesting sort of like dichotomy for somebody who is seen by their cohort, by their employees, by their colleagues as somebody who's, you know, an excellent leader, how they balance being able to like fail openly and make mistakes in the same way that a new employee might have that freedom to do so. I feel like it's a hard thing to continuously embrace that vulnerability.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is the belief that we are infallible because we're good, right? Like we've
Mm-hmm.
become so good at something that we shouldn't do anything wrong,
Mm-hmm.
which is mad, really, isn't it?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
especially rock climbing, I mean, like what happens if you slip and fall off? Like you're just a human, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's like examples of people who some of the best business leaders, and I would suppose not just business leaders, put themselves in situations where they're having to learn all the time.
Yeah.
So go and suck at something, basically. Like I've read something about a lady who's she's learning to surf, but she's awful, and she stays awful. I mean, to be honest with you, like I surf and I'm pretty rubbish. Like I've been rubbish most of my life. I can do it, but like I'm definitely no Kelly Slater, you know. Like
Yeah.
and you know, I like little kind of meet waist to shoulder high maximum paddling around waves. And I, you know, like, because I go and kind of get owned a bit, and it's part of the fun of it. And so the higher we go, we something happens, a phenomena happens where we people think of us as experts, we think of ourselves as experts,
Yeah.
and therefore we get fewer and fewer opportunities to receive feedback about
Mm-hmm.
where we might improve,
Mm-hmm.
and that's bad. In it's an interesting way to say it,
Like
but
an
like it's not
Achilles
great, is
heel.
it?
It becomes
Yeah,
a
exactly.
weakness.
Exactly. Yeah, it becomes a weakness, and that like you stop kind of pushing yourself forward and growing because you think you know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, you're never going to know it all. And if you think that you know it all, somebody who knows something different is going to come in and usurp you, right? So you kind of need to stay nimble. So let's bring it back to your rock climbing, right?
Yeah.
So how can you yeah, I'm going to turn interviewee,
Let's go. Let's go. I love
interviewer.
it.
How can you get yourself into a position where you go rock climbing and seek the feedback of those around you and continue to learn?
How can I do it? Um, it's hard. I feel like there's a few ways that can be done. One of the first ones that comes to mind is like surround yourself with people who are better than you,
Hmm.
and that's not
Yep.
it's definitely not the only way to do it because anybody can have a perspective outside of your own that can provide some insight into being better on the wall. And then I feel like the other alternative would be to change the games within the game the broader game of climbing. So like to play with
Mm.
different types of climbing that I might be
Yeah,
less experienced in and
exactly.
to grow in those smaller areas that then fill out the sort of like the broader picture of my climbing ability as a whole. But it's interesting because what I've found to be the hardest part isn't necessarily like I know that I'm far from where I could be as a climber and from just like the general sort of like standard of what like a great climber can be. But I still find it like it's like the ego. The ego is the challenge in allowing me to fail in front of peers super freely. Like I find it almost easier sometimes to be completely alone in climbing nowadays than
Interesting.
in front of people at the gym. And that's partially because to really try hard, there's a degree of vulnerability in that, even just in the like the noises that you're making. You know what I mean? And like when
Mm.
you're on the wall, when you're really
Mm.
trying hard. And yeah, I find that to be that ego. I imagine it would be similar being in a leadership position at an organization, like knowing that it's important to fail, but then also still there's a part of you that doesn't really want to show that. And then I'm sure
Mm.
even like there's a part of you that feels like you can't show that to your employees because you need to be the pillar of strength for the company.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
like I'm curious because you just like with the line of work that you do, with coaching leaders, like I'm curious, what you hear people say to you about
Mm.
this type of thing and kind of
Yeah.
how they feel.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, you're not alone in that, right? And the majority of the work we do is in corporates with yeah, people who are leading teams of thousands, right? And you're absolutely right. Like that is kind of the prevailing mindset is, oh, I shouldn't show weakness in men. Um, in women, it's a
Yeah,
lot less common.
yeah.
Women are a lot more competent in what we call transformational leadership, which is naturally more competent in that, which is one of the tenets of that is actually setting up an environment of failure where it's okay to fail. Google are really good at this. They have like failure awards. So like if you know you if a project doesn't get off the ground and someone calls it and says no, it's not going to work, it's a failure, then they celebrate that
Oh,
because like actually like creating the space where hey, I don't know everything and hey, we're going to get some stuff wrong. Pixar's another good example. So I forget the CEO's name, but he says at the start all of our movies suck. um, and basically they put the movie in front of a bunch of people and say tear it to pieces, tell us what's wrong with it. And so I hear in your situation, right? Like, so you could climb with people better than you. That's a good opportunity for sure. You could make it harder in your climbing. So the All Blacks do that. So they went and played some World Cups and won them a few years back. Haven't won one for a while, but let's not talk about that. And in those World Cups, they were playing pool games against like teams who are, they're not massively highly ranked rugby nations, and we would beat them like 100-0, but there's no point in that.
yeah.
Like you may as well make it a challenge, right? So they would play around with how they played the game to test things to make it harder for themselves, right? But the third thing I heard you talk about, and you sort of said it in passing, but then carried on, is like there's valuable feedback from those people who are not that good or not that good
Yeah.
at you as climbing. So you need to establish that kind of environment of failure and go, look, I really want to get better. What do you see, Mr. New Climber, that I maybe can't see? Like ask them,
Hmm.
set up and say, yo, what do you see that maybe I'm not seeing? Because I really want to get better. And they'll
Hmm.
say, oh, I think you're really good. And it's like, yeah, but no, I really want to get better. Like,
Hmm.
watch me and tell me what I'm doing. Tell me what I suck at and tell me maybe how I can improve. Because those newbies may see something completely, out of left field that you would never have thought of that actually could be really valuable for your climbing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%. It's funny that it's so like I find this so obvious, and in some ways I personally I feel like I seek a lot of feedback that does. I will ask people what they don't like about what I'm doing and in how I'm doing it, whether that's in climbing or at work. Like, but it's funny that it's still like this kind of goes back to the braver part of your name to me. Like it's challenging every single time. And I'm curious to ask you, like, how can we approach those challenges to still step forward even though it is difficult to do, like in the how component specifically, and I can try and clarify that more if it doesn't make sense, but
It makes sense, but I haven't got a good answer for you. The
that's
answer
fine.
that I have a good answer, but
Oh, you
it's
do.
not. I have an answer, but it's probably not the answer you want. Um, the answer is that it's like going to the gym. Motivation doesn't come before you go to the gym; it comes after. So if you start doing it, you're going to flex the muscle of going, "Oh, okay, I get it. There's some use in me doing this." But if you just sit and wait for the kind of motivation to continue to be vulnerable and open, it's not going to happen, right? And so, actually, the answer is just do it,
Hmm.
basically,
Hmm.
and give it a go, and kind of create that space for those around you, for yourself, where it's like, oh, that's normal for me. That's my habit. It's like, oh, hey, what did you notice? Did you notice anything weird that I was up when I was up there? Did you notice that I was doing anything strange? I was
Hmm.
trying some different techniques. How did that look or whatever, right? And just get
Hmm.
in that habit of going, hey, what do you think?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
What are Do you see any patterns in sort of potential blind spots in leaders in general? Like, do you see major sort of patterns that somebody who is a new leader in an organization carries?
Um, oh, it's a good question. I mean, there's lots of patterns. The thing is everyone has bias, right? Everyone carries their own biases. And excuse me, with that, those blind spots are a result of your upbringing, your experiences, and the system in which you operate,
Hmm.
right? Um, so patterns may be, yeah, are certain types of biases, right? So, you know, okay, one of the major ones is people hiring in their image, so I don't know. Have you ever gone to work somewhere else and you end up dressing differently because of the way the people there dress?
I'm sure I have, but I can't specifically like think of a time right off the hop.
Yeah, it's random, right? Because you wouldn't have thought about it. You would have
Yeah.
just changed slowly.
Yeah,
And
true.
so that's homophily, right? And it creates this situation where we're and the strong doing what others are doing around us is one of the strongest predictors of behavior. So people fall in line with shitty behavior.
Hmm.
Um, so if the CEO is working his ass off, his, her, or their ass off, I should say. Um, and then everyone around is kind of looks up and goes, okay, that person's really working hard. That means I should too. And then
Hmm.
you get this kind of hero work culture of like, oh yeah, don't look after yourself. Work comes first. And so yeah, like that's a very broad answer, but that's probably the biggest issue we see, right? Is that often the leader will come to us or the HR will come to us and say, well, there's some issues in the leadership team, this, and this, and this. And then we do some research and we go, hmm, actually, your issue is the CEO. And why is he or she not taking part of this, taking part in this training or in this coaching? Oh, they don't need it. Well, I, I think maybe they do. And so the problem is always out there, but everyone is looking to that person as how to act.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, like it just kind of creates this recurring pattern of behavior that everyone goes, oh, yeah, okay, great. Those are some really good ideas. Okay, yeah, but my boss is doing that, so I'm just going to do that.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, it
You know what I'm saying?
seems like a lot of these ideas are in some way both like I don't know. It seems somewhat both obvious, but it's still a challenge everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah,
seems,
because
yeah,
people don't address the root cause. You're absolutely right. It's obvious, but people go, "Oh, okay." So, I had a client. We had a client recently. I won't name names that
yeah,
came to us and said, "We want training on bias and diversity." Sure. Okay. Cool. But if you're not willing to actually slow down and address why the bias is happening in the first place because you're putting so much pressure on people, or why diversity is not being like people are not seeing diversity as a good thing. Again, because you're putting too much pressure on people, usually is the answer. If you apply lots of pressure, then people revert to their bias very quickly because it's what they know. It's like bias is system one thinking. It's easy, right?
hmm,
And then diversity is the same. Like you're going to hire in your image, you're going to hire people that speak the same language as you, you're going to hire people that have the same upbringing as you because it's easy, right? So I got to think quickly. I'm going to
yeah,
have, I'm just going to hire, and I will say this time, that guy because he's from New Zealand and he understands my accent,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's easy, right? So I'm just going to pull them. Before you know it, you've got a team of like Aussies, Kiwis, Brits, and Canadians and Americans because we all understand each other, and you've
Mm-hmm.
got this complete lacking diversity in your team of diversity of thought,
Yeah.
and so yeah, like that. That's this kind of people are not willing to look at the root true causes, and most of the time the root true causes are grow at all costs, give me more money.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Which is funny to compare that to the theme of the podcast because it's growth. But it's interesting because there's a one of the ideas that I really like to like keep in mind is sustainable growth, right? Because there's growth at all costs, which I don't know if it is necessarily sustainable in the long run. I think eventually it can collapse on itself. But it seems to me like what you're describing is something you touched on a few times was that it's this go mentality and there's pressure. So maybe it's a little bit, you're more in the like, you said, I think it was first systems thinking, a little bit
System
more.
one, yeah.
Yeah, system
Yeah.
one, which to me sounds similar to like you're in the more of the fight, flight, or freeze
Yeah.
mentality, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have the time to slow down and not rush. And to me, there's an element in like in business that I'm kind of seeing just as I'm in it more and more, where especially I find leaders and like everybody, we're constantly trying to move very quickly and
Mm,
get everything done as quickly as possible, which I think there's value in that, but it's interesting, like the idea of slowing down and taking your
mm,
time with something a little bit more to
yep.
open because when I think when you slow down, right, then you step out of the fight, flight, or freeze mentality and you can actually engage, like the blinders come down and you can start to be a little bit more creative when you're relaxed
Mm, yeah.
and feel safe. So yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
What do you what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
Well, exactly that. I mean, I agree with you totally, right? Like we spend most of our time in business in exploit mode, which is system one, move quickly, do things fast. That's your limbic brain, which is your reptile brain. It doesn't have it deals in emotions, right? And so and that's how it makes its decisions.
It's like an
And so
emotionally
basically,
driven system.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And so you're going, okay, you to go back to bias, like, okay, I need to make this decision quickly. Okay, I'll call my however many years of experience and just make that decision like
Yeah.
that. When in reality, if you slowed down and moved into explore mode and use system two thinking, which is your prefrontal cortex, your executive function, you can then slowly go, okay, is this the right decision?
Hmm.
How do I mitigate the bias that I'm likely to show here,
Yeah.
and then make a more rational decision.
I feel like there's a lot of trust required in yourself to slow down.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of trust required from the business to know that in reality, um, one of my lecturers said this to me, like not stopping and slowing down is the best way to drive straight into a brick wall.
Yeah.
Metaphorical brick wall
Yeah.
in business, right? Like when do we like most businesses will kind of do a bit of a like a planning phase once a year, right? And they might spend, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month or something doing it, but it's especially if it's a big corporate, like it's spread out over multiple teams. Everyone's kind of pushing to do it while still carrying on with their own other work. Like how many businesses do you know that actually pause and reflect on the year and go, okay, that was interesting. What do we want to do next year?
Hmm.
Not many, right? It's all kind of like grow, 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 grow. And why? Why do you need to keep growing? Is what's wrong with saying staying the same size? If it means that you've got a bunch of people who have secure jobs,
Yeah.
um, like good livelihoods, et cetera, et cetera. There's a mentality there of like, oh no, we need to grow at X%. Why?
Hmm.
Who made that rule?
Totally. Yeah. Do you do you think it's possible to grow in and still be in the system, is it systems two thinking, like to essentially be emotionally calm and stable but still be operating at that like higher performance, you could call it whatever, growth rate.
Are you meaning, let me see, check your meaning here.
Yeah.
That are you, so if you're in system one where you're making decisions quickly in your limbic brain, are you meaning being in there and making good decisions?
No, I guess what I'm meaning is still operating at like relatively high rate of moving through tasks, because that's how I think of like systems one, limbic reptilian brain is like it's like boom task, like things come up and you kind of like habitually are like reacting
Yep.
to all of these things, and probably not the most efficiently because you maybe don't like think things fully through, or like fully like read the email again before you send it, or whatever the case might be. But like, is there a way to still, this is what I think. I think that there's a way to like be emotionally essentially calm and
Mhm.
to take your time, but to still enter that state of like, we are going to grow. I feel like both are possible, but I think it's challenging because of what you were referring to earlier. When the CEO operates in one way, then everybody else operates in that way too. And I think we're just in a place where a lot of people operate in this like rushed, high stressed place all the time, and I don't think it's necessary. And part of the reason I think that is because just like having rock climbed so much, like I know I love rock climbing because it's so obvious when you're doing something that's
Mm.
not beneficial because you fall off the wall, right? Like it's the feedback system is immediate. Whereas I feel like in business, the feedback system can be months or years before we understand like, is this a good
Yeah.
strategy?
So what you're saying is everyone in business should, if the idea is shit, we should just push them off a wall.
Maybe. I mean, as long as there's a safety net, right? They can be caught ideally. We're not free soloing here. We're bouldering, but yeah.
Yeah, got it. Well, I think to go back to your first question, is there a way of kind of doing both? Yes, but yes, but not really.
Okay.
Like the way of doing. Well, this is my opinion. I
Yeah,
might be wrong. My opinion is actually having both is quite important because that oscillation between the two
I see.
modes allows us to go, okay, right, and being intentional about that, right, and going, oh, um, okay, I need to stop. Like I'm doing it right now. I'm having 6 weeks off, and like am not okay. I'm not having 6 weeks off. I'm doing some planning. I'm doing some thinking about the business, blah blah blah. Doing a couple of hours of work each day, but not much, and doing lots of sleeping.
Good.
So much sleeping.
Good.
But yeah, yeah, it's awesome. And every time I do it, I'm like, why don't I do this more? But the point is, my creativity comes back to your point. Like I feel creative again. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. Yeah, I'm excited about the business again. And so, why wouldn't you want that?
Hmm.
To then go, okay, now we've got to go and so my focus this year is creating more assets, right? We need to be a more asset driven business. Okay, great. So then what's the plan for doing that? I don't know, but I'm making that plan now. Okay, cool. Then I need to go create them. I got to go, do my exploit mode. And I'll do that, but what I'm going to try and be more intentional with,
Hmm.
and I've got a meeting after this call actually with somebody to say, look, I need to dial it down a notch because like I want to make sure that I'm putting good reflection time in every week, but also like having a couple of weeks out every sort of 3 to 4 months
Yeah.
where I can just go, okay, what's happening? And then I'm going to have summer off, like July, August. Good luck trying to contact me. I'll see you in September, kind of thing. Or maybe I'll do, I don't know, 6 weeks, but you know what I mean. Like, the point being, I'll have an extended period off, probably lying on a beach in Greece and thinking about things again.
Yeah.
I won't just do nothing, but like that's where I go and do that. Like, okay, that's where I go and make sure that I'm evading the brick wall,
Hmm.
basically.
Versus again, because like in business, we don't always know we've hit the brick wall until it's a little bit, or we're even close to the brick wall until it's too late.
Yeah. And if you don't stop and think about it, then somebody will come in your industry and create something bigger, better, faster, newer than yours, and
And
you had your head up your own ass, being in busy mode, and you just kind of like missed it all. You know what I mean?
Well, why is it so? If it's why is it so hard? Like it's clearly challenging, right?
Which, but what's so hard? What, the
To
stopping?
slow down and to
Yeah,
like it's like pit stops, right? In
cap,
NASCAR.
cap. I mean, look, the yeah, exactly that. That's a really great analogy. I love that. Like, yeah, you need pit stops for your business, right? And my answer to that is that um capitalism. But we live in a society, we live in societies where growth and more money and excess are seen as good things.
Hmm.
And rather than this kind of this acceptance of, okay, we've got enough. Like, what if we just consolidated this year and, we just made sure that all of our people had enough resources,
Hmm.
and therefore that they were not tipping over the edge of the stress curve at any given moment and burning out. But instead, what the kind of prevailing mindset is, well, no, we need to make sure that we're growing next year.
But it's funny because like I feel like baked into the to what you just said is the assumption that by slowing down, the growth is going to be less.
Yeah, yeah, which is not
Which
true.
which isn't yeah, which is like but it's interesting to me because I don't know if it needs to be like that. Like I think when you see everybody else like I mean it's like anything, you know what I mean? You see everybody else going to university, to not go to university, you feel like you're falling behind. Or if you see everybody else buying a house and you're not, and you're living in Vancouver and you're like, how the hell am I supposed to ever afford buying anything? Like you can feel like you're falling behind. And I think like I brought up trust earlier. I feel like the to trust yourself is so important to be like, I trust myself enough to slow down and then
Mm.
as a result be better than these people, like not necessarily better but like to be able to perform at a higher level and
Yeah,
therefore like reach the outcome of whatever game that's being played here in a way that's
100%.
better for me
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah, totally. And if you don't slow down and stop making decisions in system one,
Mm-hmm.
then you go get the university degree because everybody else is. You buy the house because everybody else is. You end up wearing baggy jeans because everyone else is. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
honestly, that's how it works, right? Like people
yeah.
look around them and go, and I know this, man, and I've been through this all year because I split up with my partner mid last year, right, mid 2023. And that was tough, right? Because like we were kind of planning to have a family, like we were engaged, we are thinking about it, and I chose to go the other way. And it's been really hard for me because all I've been doing in my brain, and like our brains are wired negatively to protect us,
Yeah,
but my brain's like, oh yeah, but you should be having kids, you should be married,
yeah.
like you're 44, bro, like you should be married. Like, who says? Who made that rule up? And whoever it is, I would love to have a word with them and be like, "Yo, that's a shit rule," um, because we look around us and like my siblings, like my sisters are both in long term. Well, one sister's married, she's got two kids. My other sister's not married, she's got a partner and a child. And so, like, good for them. That's their thing. But like, choose it intentionally, right? And
Conscious choice. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I made a choice. It was so hard to not do that because I wanted to go and keep kind of experiencing life. And I've been to, man, like Portugal, Serbia, Vietnam, loads of time in Dubai, like all over. I was just in Sweden, like, I've been to Saudi Arabia this year, like all over the place because I was like, no, 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 that's not yet. I'm not ready for that yet. I wouldn't mind having a kid at some point, but like, yeah, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, like that's their life, not mine. And so this kind of choosing, yeah, consciously is a big thing, and slowing down is you need to slow down to do that, right?
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that, first of all. And this is maybe a weird word to bring in here, but like I feel like there's an arbitrage opportunity in slowing down when no one else is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's undervalued. And if you're one of the fewer people who can slow down and be a little bit more intentional about the choices you make for yourself, I think there's an like you have an opportunity to have a higher return on that investment because no one else, because no so few people are doing that. It seems like, right? Like maybe a lot of people are, I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I'm going to practice what I preach here. What does arbitrage mean?
Oh, yeah, totally. I randomly, I by complete coincidence ended up doing a finance degree because I was doing what everyone else was doing, and I knew that at the time because I was lucky enough to take a year off again by accident, pretty much after high school, and I then really struggled to decide whether or not to go to university because it kind of became clear of like how tracked it was once I was
Mm,
removed a little bit. Anyways, and then I capitulated and I went to university and I got a degree and I hated my like not my I didn't hate myself, but I was frustrated for it for a while. Anyways, arbitrage is like in the stock market, if you find a stock that is should be worth more than it is and you're the first
yeah,
person to realize it, that's an arbitrage opportunity. But the market, so in why not? In economics, the theory is that like is it a I can't remember the words, but it's like a there's a it's a perfect system, which means that technically everything is always valued at what it is worth. And therefore there is
mm,
no arbitrage opportunity. And in the stock market, it's really hard to find arbitrage opportunity because so many people are constantly essentially engaged with the system that
mm.
it's hard to actually predict and to find a true sort of so when something's undervalued and then you're one of the first people to recognize that, then you can essentially participate in the upswing versus somebody
Okay,
who
gotcha.
realizes it later. Yeah.
And so, what context did you use that word in again?
The arbitrage opportunity in slowing down.
Oh, got it. Right. So I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
yeah, basically that slowing down equals speeding up
Yes.
in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like it's when I took a year off, not took a year off. So I went to Australia for a year, fell in love with rock climbing, came back. It was COVID. Was looking for my first job. Was living at home in my parents' basement. It's COVID. Like nothing's really happening. I'm applying for
Yeah.
work and I'm working out every single day, like to become a better climber. And like it became a part of my identity to the point where I hurt my shoulder and continued to like bullishly spearhead my way through the injury because I was so wrapped up in it. And there was nothing else going on in my life at the time. So it was like if I'm not a good climber, if I'm not progressing as a climber, like
Mm,
what the hell am I doing?
mm,
And I feel like I learned so much from that experience that really helped me understand like what slowing down means, but also like slowing down and like climbing's not unidimensional. We kind of talked about this earlier. Nothing is. And so I can slow down in one aspect of climbing, but I can still progress in other areas of it at the same time. And I don't know. I don't know what it really is, but just like that idea of conscious choice and being intentional about like, okay, for
yeah.
this hour or 3 hours, I'm gonna be really like systems one, just
Yep.
getting shit done. But then over
Yep.
lunch, I'm going to like turn my phone off. I'm going to put my computer away and I'm gonna take I worked my ass off last 3 hours like I was supposed to. So I'm going to take 45 minutes or an hour and I'm just going to actually relax. And then when I
Yep.
come back, I'll be better. And when I started in sales, like I was very like disciplined about that for myself. And it
Mm,
seemed to work. Like I ended up performing. It's funny, sales is such a performance based thing, right? Like you can see,
mm, mm,
am I booking more meetings than the 10 other people that I'm competing against? And are more of these deals closing? And even just on a sales call, like, am I relaxed and am I able
mm,
to like navigate the flow of it? Or am I super like, okay, this is the next question. This is the next question.
mm, mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm living proof that slowing down helps you, right? Like I'm doing it literally right now. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have had any of the thoughts that I've had if I hadn't stopped for, I mean, I got here on the 7th of December, so what, 11 days ago. Oh, I'm a day ahead of you, eh? How about that?
Yeah,
Welcome to the
yeah.
future, bro. Um, yeah, like, and in that time, the amount that I've gotten done in terms of thinking and like me going, okay, how do we not do this again? Because I'll be honest with you, like 2 weeks ago, I was burnt out, like I was exhausted, I wasn't sleeping well, I was stressed, and it was just like, I'm like thinking about quitting
Yeah.
it all, right? And like, just I'm done with this. And I believe in what we do. I love what we do, and I want to, and it helps organizations, it helps systems, right? And so I want to take it bigger and help, governments, that kind of thing. But if I don't stop, then I never get to go, okay, well, am I hitting at the brick wall? And I hit the brick wall pretty much,
Yeah.
right? Like, okay, maybe I was only doing like 5 miles an hour, but like, I still like was not in a good shape and not in good shape at the end of I mean, I stopped working on ish on the 4th of December, and I was not in good shape then. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, like being able to go, okay, first few days were just sleep. Man, I slept. First night I got to New Zealand, I slept for 15 hours.
Wow.
Um, I know. I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's pretty cool. Um, and like at the moment, I'm sleeping like on average 10 hours a night. It's awesome. And so, man, Sally Duxfield, honestly, she gave me the best sleep stack ever. I interviewed her on one of my podcasts,
Yeah.
and she gave me the best sleep stack of supplements to take where if you're not sleeping super well, and it's changed the game. So yeah. Anyway, point
What is
being,
it?
um,
Do
oh
you,
mate,
or is it easy? Is it like an easy list or like
yeah, no, no, no. Easy stuff like magnesium, but like the specific types of magnesium. L-theanine is really good. Glycine helps lower your body temperature before you sleep.
yeah.
Ashwagandha, really good for stress and helping you sleep. 5-HTP is a good one as well. So that's like helps naturally produce serotonin. And valerian root.
Okay.
That's the magic list for me at the
Yeah.
moment. And I
Which
sleep
is
10
which
hours
is
a night
free.
and I work. Bro, honestly, I wake up feeling like $1 million. Not today because I didn't sleep enough last night, but pretty much every other day I've just been waking up going, "Come at me." So, but yeah, like we're getting off track here, but the point being, slowing down, and then I'll go back to Dubai in January, and I've got planned to do a couple of months of work, but then Dad and I are going to go to Mexico,
Nice.
like take a couple of weeks and go to Mexico and Cuba. And I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, like everyone's like, oh yeah, but we've got clients. I don't care. Like if having clients is in exchange for my sanity and my health, not interested.
Hmm.
Not interested at all.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So it sounds like there's like a firmness in understanding your own sort of like priorities.
100%, bro. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not getting any younger. None of us are. And like I've noticed how like even noticed that I looked older this year because I stressed myself so much. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, I don't want that, bro. I want to be. I saw this guy this morning and like a who's a biohacking wizard who's 60 and he looks about 35. I'm like, that's me.
Let's go.
That's me. Yeah,
Oh, right on, Sam.
sweet, bro.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast, dude. I really do. It was a blast.
Mate, I appreciate your probing questions. It was a good joust. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad it was an honor to joust with you.
Yeah, for sure, bro, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, mate, lovely to see you, and hopefully it's been useful to some people.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do it?
Wait till January 16th, um, um, 17th, sorry, and then you can get me on braverleaders.com or Sam Harvey on LinkedIn. But yeah, Braver Leaders is the business name, so braverleaders.com is the easiest way, and you can get us through there.
Sweet. Awesome. Cheers. I'll just stop the recording and then head out or whatever. Yeah.